Who am I here with?
So, Bob Benoit, how you doing, Ryan? Thanks for the time today.
What's one moment in your life that had the biggest impact on your life today?
I think probably when got my first job, one of the things that, like everybody else, when you go through college, you really don't know what you want to do. I went to the military first, then college. You really never sure what you really want to do, right? You have an idea what you did, you studied for it, you had an approach to it. And when I got my first job, I was working at a financial services company, doing basic IT work. And they had an opening that came up. The guy I was working for saw some potential and offered me to take on a junior level leadership position. And quite frankly, it wasn't something I ever thought I'd be into doing. And once I got that first job, it kind of springboarded everything else I did from there. So from a career perspective, that certainly was certainly a game changer for me.
And you mentioned that you were in the military. How did the skills you learned in the military help you move into your job after that?
Right? So in the military, you really don't ask a lot of questions. They give you an outcome, and your job is to prepare yourself the best you can for that outcome. So whether it's as an individual contributor or whether that's in a leadership role where you have to get a group organized towards that goal, I think one of the things the military taught me that was good was really not get distracted by the noise that goes on around you. Things that could complicate, and you could apply that to anything you do in your day-to-day life. What I think the military really taught me was to stay focused on the task at hand, and really get, focus myself and keep myself time, aligned so that I can accomplish goals in a much more effective way. And I use those same principles now, even, at a VP level, running a large tech team at a startup. So
What's the biggest challenge you've had to face across your life?
I think we all, I don't know if it's one big thing. I think, some of the things I'll just give you a personal thing is, for me, it was always I was presented, luckily enough, and I had a lot of good mentors, as I certainly moved out of, the high school ranks into the military, then college, and then the professional ranks. I really was lucky in life to find a lot of good mentors. And through those mentors, I presented a lot of opportunity. And I think, the biggest challenge for me was, and you can apply this really to anything, was saying yes to these new opportunities where, you just feel like you're not capable of doing it. It's almost self-doubt that, can I really, if I say yes to this, I'm actually going to have to pull this off. Can I get it done? It's almost like the imposter syndrome. Do I really have the ability to go get this done, and then have the confidence in yourself to go do it? And that's probably, I'd say, a hurdle that I've had all through my career is when you move into that next step or take that next challenge, just the ability to make sure you know how to get it done. And that for me, I'd say is the biggest obstacle I've always had. I think everybody has it. But really just getting through that, I think, is one of the things I've always had to make sure I put a lot of effort on. And it's also a lot of self-inspection to make sure I'm doing the right things for the right outcomes.
And you mentioned having mentors helping you get to where you are today. How does a young person get a mentor or find someone to mentor them?
So I think for me, it was, you're going to meet a lot of people as you move through, whether it's, high school, and you probably see this today in your high school career. You're going to find people that are very interesting in what they do, right? So for me, it was always I'm a question asker, right? So for me, it was always asking a lot of questions, especially when you had an opportunity to meet someone that was doing something interesting. That could be someone your school brings in to meet that's going to do a highlight. Someone you meet in passing, maybe when you're looking for colleges you want to go to. For me, it was I met some folks in the military early on that were, captain or colonel level folks that when I have a free moment or an opportunity to ask them questions, I would do that. And through those questions, usually what you're able to build is a little bit of a rapport with them, right? And people like to be asked questions. They like to be asked good questions, right? So through those engagements, and then one thing that I always found to be effective was, asking if you can, ask them questions or ask them if I can do, hey, if I ever run into a situation, is it okay for me to reach out to you? And what you're going to find is most people are absolutely open to doing that. So I would say each stage I went through in my, whether it was, through development in my career or, transitioning from, school to the professional world, I was always really able to find some good mentors that I still keep in touch with, a lot of them. So it's something that, asking a lot of questions, engaging with them, being honest, and then asking to follow up. Hey, I'd love to spend some time with you at some point, if you can give me 15, 20 minutes or whatever it is. I do that still today. So one thing in the role I'm in now, I have about 10 mentors at all times, people that I mentor, and it's more around professional development. They use me as a sounding board. They may have a project that's due. They want to get my views on it, or they're stuck, right? I think one of the things I learned from one of my best mentors was, catch someone doing something right, which is, if you find someone that's doing something good, reach out to them and let them know, right? That's one thing. The other thing is, if you have people that you know are going through a tough time, um, reach out to them while they're in that moment. So it could be, you have a student that's studying for a really hard exam, that's really important to them. Don't reach out to them after the exam when they already got the grade, right? They passed or they failed or whatever it is. Reach out to them while they're in the middle of it. Say, listen, you got this, right? You can get through this, right? And a lot of the mentors I worked with were there during those moments when it wasn't the outcome I was in. I was still in the middle of trying to achieve what I needed to. And that's, for me, the best spot for mentors to plug in.
And you mentioned asking questions to your mentors. What are the types of questions you look to ask them?
Yeah, it really depended on where they were. I mean, some of them were, um, personal questions like, hey, it was, at a fork road in your life. It could be anything. It could be, I'm looking to take the next step with or in a relationship. It could be, I'm trying to make a financial determination of whether I'm going to buy a house or should I rent something, right? Or where should I make some investments? Or it could be professional advice where, hey, I'm in this job today. I want to move up. What should I be thinking about to do that? Or, one of the mentors I had for a while, I always had some challenging people I worked for at certain points in time. They're the boss. You have to work for them. So how do I navigate through a boss that I'm not necessarily clicking with, or it's not necessarily working out? How do I develop a relationship in, you'd say almost a contentious type of an interaction with someone you need to. So it's really about where you see that mentor, whether it's a life mentor or whether it's a professional mentor. But it's really about using them as a sounding board, um, to get feedback on things you're doing right and things you could be doing better, right? And usually I found is most of the mentors I work with kept asking me questions, which would then lead me to the ultimate answer of what I needed. Because it's not their decision to help you to tell you what they would do. It's more about guiding you to get to the answer that's right for you.
You mentioned learning a lot from your mentors, but what's one lesson that you've had to learn the hard way yourself?
Yeah, that's another good question. I think, um, I'd say one of the hardest lessons I had to learn was things aren't given to you easily. I think when I first started in the professional world, there's people mostly, yourself, right? And you know that you can succeed, you know where your strengths are, you know where your weaknesses are. And there'll be times when I worked really hard for something and I didn't get the achievement. And I would expect it. And I would turn around and say, why didn't I get this? Or, how come they got it and I didn't get it? I think I was passed up for a promotion when I was kind of mid-level management in my previous company. And, it was all about the company not supporting me. And I think the lesson I had to learn was I had some blind spots that I didn't know about because I wasn't asking the right questions or I wasn't engaging with my leadership team the way I needed to. And I found this out because I got passed up on a couple of early promotions that I thought I was perfectly fit for. And, quite honestly, the person that kind of shed the light on this or helped me navigate through it was the mentor I had at the time, and which was great. I wound up switching companies, which is, a choice everybody makes at some point. But for me, I think that was probably the hardest lesson I had to learn was not everything's going to be given to you, and your own self perception of the way you are doesn't necessarily translate the way people perceive you. So you have to really be conscious of that. And I probably learned that lesson the hard way a couple times.
That's awesome. And one more question. What's one piece of advice you'd give to the people watching the video?
Get uncomfortable. I think when I think about some of the challenge I had and when I got stuck was I was very comfortable in what I was doing, and I got stuck. And I think, when I look back on the successes I've had, they were usually in situations when I was uncomfortable, right? Where I felt like I had to take the risk. And, it's measured risk, don't get me wrong, but making yourself uncomfortable, I think, is one of the best things that you can do. And then take that risk and then make sure you're conscious of what you're doing and you're paying attention to it. But taking those risks is really in my perspective, something that's really helped me get to where I've been able to get to in life.